Can be part of this conversation, please just send your comments and questions and of course suggestions to any of the addresses showing on your screen. Business Morning returns in just a moment. Welcome back. It's still Business Morning on Channels Television and we're broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. I still have two economists here with me from Financial Derivatives Company Limited, the Peter Side and Damola Akibami, and we'll be looking at latest developments here in Nigeria, economic developments that is, and how most of what's happening outside our shores, particularly in the US markets, how it is affecting us back home. Let's just quickly look at what happened at the Nigerian Stock Exchange for most of last week. And B has actually agreed to, help us look at this. Last week we noticed that there was a sustained bearish trend, despite, attractive postures of some blue chip, chip stocks. What actually happened, and do we know if this is going to continue this week?
Well, we've seen a change in the buy habits of investors from the blue chip stocks to actually the medium and lowly capitalized stocks. And that's basically because you look at the blue chips, some of them are already fairly priced and some low cap stocks are not so fairly priced. And investors see an opportunity for growth in the low cap stocks. So we are still, I think, when you look at the sentiment, it's been bearish. Like we established, liquidity is a concern. There's no money to trade. And when you look at the rates are high. So you're already moving towards the fixed income. Investors are favoring the fixed income markets. So going last week, the market lost about 0.4% last week. So that also...
It lost about 0.84 actually.
0.84%. The market lost about 0.84% last week, okay, on cumulatively also. So when you look at that, you see what's driving this. There's been this pull and drag effect. When you see people coming in, seeking attractive buy entry positions, and you're seeing people exiting. Any little appreciation the stock makes in the next few days or so, it's been gone, and that's profit taking. It just tells you that the sentiment is negative, all bearish. People are being cautious, and they want to see some positive news coming and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. If policymakers take this decision, then they can now start taking positions based on the decisions of policymakers.
Yeah, let's just look at, NSE ASIM, it's for small and mid-sized companies. Yes. Now, last week we saw that that particular index actually closed flat. And that's not the first time this is happening. And it's like this posture has been on for like a couple of sessions now. What do you think, is actually happening?
When you look at them, you're asking yourself, what's actually driving those? Why do you want to play the ASIM? There's really nothing attractive, nothing exciting.
Well, the NSE thinks it seems to be a very attractive way of, attracting small companies to come and be listed on the exchange.
Yes, that's fine. It's not a bad idea. It's good. Small companies to come. It's a better, or it's an alternative means for them to access fund and also deepen the market. But let's look at it. What's their capitalization? Very insignificant, if I might say. When you sum them up and look at it, I don't think they're up to 5% or 10% of the market cap. And if you throw in funds in there, it's just going to suck it up. So there's nothing that's really going to happen. Now let's look at the firms, how they are performing there. We've not seen any significant, impressive results from any of those firms. So, and what should drive a stock price or drive interest for any equity or any stock is the ability of the firms to earn profit, to make profit and declare impressive results and give returns to investors. So when investors do not see any reason to invest, any likelihood of this firm is going to increase its profitability, increase its revenues and its dividend payout or whatever that's going to be given out to investors increase. There's no reason, there's no need for me to bother myself investing in those stocks. So until that happens, and those firms are, let's say, I can classify them as SMEs.
Okay.
I can classify them as SMEs. And if they are SMEs, how are they going to survive in this environment where rates are high and they don't really have the leverage like the heavy capitalized stocks to actually access loans at, will I say at a discounted rate, that a stock, an SME cannot access a facility from a bank as same as a Guinness or a Nigerian breeze who has the leverage and already has the demand and the customer base and already has a brand or something. So that's quite challenging.
So what do we expect going forward, at least for today and for most of the week?
Well, we expect the market to actually bottom out at 36,000 basis points. It's hit about that. So when we saw the close of our 36,097 on Friday, we were like, oh, do we need to revise our expectations, our view that this is going to bottom out at 36,000 basis points? Going to this week, we still expect the BS to take the week, being that there's nothing impressive, there's nothing happening. I still prefer my fixed income at this moment. I'm just looking at myself as a traditional investor. Why should I go in? I might go in, I might get my hands burnt. I don't want to speculate. But then again, low prices. There are some stocks that are trading at very attractive prices, trading below their intrinsic value. So when you see them, they are seasoned investors who know these stocks and they will just start picking them up and acquiring them. And we've seen the activities. We've not seen, in terms of volume and the top gainers, it's been the lowly cap stocks that have been doing this.
Yes, we've actually known, like Jos International Breweries, for instance. It's been playing, in fact, it's been the top gainer for like 2 or 3 weeks running now.
Yes, like you see a Jos Breweries, you've seen Evono products begin last week. So you ask yourself, and you see those are actually on the on losing also. They're also international energy insurance. Those are insurance stocks also too. So you really don't see the banking sectors being among the top gainers or the top losers for the week. You really don't see the heavy cap. So you ask yourself, what's happening? People have already taken their decision and just holding out and observing and doing some cheap bargains. That's the idea.
Okay. Well, we're still looking at the economy, and we know that in the last couple of months, we've had we've had improvement or reported improvement in power sector reforms, but power generation is still less than about 3,000 megawatts. How do we reconcile all of this?
Well, a lot has been happening. Private investors have actually taken over, made payments also to acquire these assets, and it's quite challenging. It's quite a tough one to call and say and evaluate. Being that it's a process that is undergoing change, yes. So we don't expect much to happen. Being that the government in its budget didn't make significant provisions for the power sector, they are expecting that they are going to conclude this whole transformation process and hand it over to private investors. And in the past few weeks, we know that some private investors, some successful companies, they've made payment for these assets. So they are the ones that are going to be the ones to now drive that change in that sector and bring about improved power. But we are bullish on that. We are bullish and we expect that to be a success. All
right. Now, also looking at developments, we know that recently business mogul Mr. Aliko Dangote actually was able to raise about $3.3 billion to fund one of the largest petrol refineries in Africa. That's to refine about 400,000 barrels per day of oil. Now, what does this portend for the Nigerian economy?
Well, that's significant. It's going to, I think it has the ability to bring about the change that is needed in that petroleum sector, being that anybody who knows Aliko Dangote as an astute businessman, and anything he's done, he's actually happened to do it well. He doesn't go into anything he doesn't understand, as time has proved. And then we look at it that it's also a big move to other players is a big sign. And sadly, the oil industry in Nigeria, or let's look at the downstream per se, it's operated on the premise that subsidy is going to remain forever. The refineries will